All right, joining us this morning, crew chief of the number 4 Stewart-Haas Ford Mustang Dark Horse for driver Josh Berry. It's Rodney Childers. Rodney, welcome to the call. Appreciate you joining us here as we head to Darlington Throwback Weekend. If you've got a question for Rodney, raise your hand, and we should be able to get to everyone today in the time we've got. And Rodney, I guess I kind of want to kick it off. We had Josh on the call a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned the throwback scheme and how that goes back to one of your late models. So I'm just curious for your perspective as we get ready for Darlington, just your thoughts on being able to see something that you actually drove and will be on the track this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it was extremely special. It was a complete surprise to me going to the governor's mansion down there and pulling the cover back on that car. We only got it back a few feet, and I realized what it was, and it was all I could do not to break down and cry. But really, that 1998 year was, I think probably one of the biggest turning points of my career. That was just the start of being able to get in a race car and make something happen. I was a young kid that had got out of go-karts, which, winning a lot in the go-kart industry is one thing, but when you get in a race car, you need to be able to get it done. And the year before, I'd only run about 5 races and didn't run very good. And then we got that car from Greg Marlowe, and Greg helped me with shocks and springs and set up stuff. And then we went to the first race of the year and sat on the pole and led all 150 laps and took all the veterans' money that night. And they tore it down into a million pieces because they thought there was no way that I just beat, people like Max Presswood and Binky Bollinger and Dexter Knipe and all those guys that used to win all the time. So then we just kept winning all year long, and went on to win the fall brawl at Hickory. Went to the beach and kind of should have won it. Me and Philip Morris got into it with about 10 to go, I think, and cut a tire down, and then went to Kenley the next week and sat on the pole and led 190 of the 200 laps, and the transmission broke on with 10 to go. So it was going to be a good year. If you could have finished it off with all those at the end of the year, it was going to be pretty immaculate year. So just a special deal, for me to walk in the front door every day. The show car is still in the showroom, and I think every day I take a picture of that show car. And it's kind of changed my whole perspective. Normally the lights in the lobby don't get turned on until somebody from the gift shop gets here. And I've turned into walking into the front door instead of the side door every morning. And I turn the lights on in the lobby every morning when I get here at 6 o'clock. And, it's just special to have that thing sitting there, and to see the real race car on the scales and getting set up and all that this week has been pretty cool.
Awesome. All right, well, we've got questions lined up here for you, Rodney. We'll kick it off here with Greg Engel. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I like the coming in at 6 o'clock. That's the only way to go, my friend. I want to ask you a couple questions here real quick. Looking forward to Darlington. How do you set up a car for such a track as Darlington? Because I mean, both ends are different, right? And I mean, you go to 1.5 miles and you can kind of throw things that turns 1 and 2 can kind of be the same as 3 and 4, but you go to Darlington, it's a vastly different end on either end. How do you set a car up to deal with that kind of a track?
Yeah, like you said, it's always been a tough place. Over the last 20 years that I've been going, the surface has changed a lot. I know the early days it would just eat the tires off like crazy. I mean, it still does, but just not like it did back then. And then we went through the repave stage of, Mark Martin won on 2 tires there, and Regan Smith won by staying out and all those different things. And then now there's no way you would stay out. So, it's difficult. Normally you're too tight turning back down the hill in turn 2. That's normally the thing that hurts you the most. It just kills your run down the back straightaway, and then you end up too loose off of 4. And you just kind of figure out what works for you. I think with this next gen car, you probably have 10 good cars there, and all 10 of them have a different setup in them, but it works for that particular driver. And we were able to hone in on that with Kevin driving the car, and I thought we had a pretty good car there in the spring. It wasn't great, but it was definitely a top 8 car. And then we went back in the fall and kept inching our way forward. And like y'all remember, we were getting ready to take the lead from the 45 when all hell broke loose. So um, it'd be interesting to go back there with Josh. He was able to drive the 48 there last year and got some laps. I know it wasn't a great race for him, but to have some laps there in these cars is important. And honestly, just kind of see where we're at in practice and try to qualify well, try to get a good pit stall, and do all the things that we need to do.
And talk about pushing the envelope a little bit. Obviously, as long as you've been in this sport, the next gen car gives you the smallest envelope you have to push within, right? But if you go to the edge and NASCAR catches you in inspection, you're sent to the rear of the field. There's all these kind of stuff going on, and you don't want that in a points race. But when you look forward to the All-Star race, there's nothing on there but money and prestige, right? There's no points involved. Do you think about pushing the envelope a little bit more when you go there, knowing that if you get caught, so to speak, that the sanctions aren't going to be as rough as they are on a points weekend?
I mean, honestly, to me, I don't think there's such thing as pushing the envelope anymore. To me, I don't even get into that anymore. I don't even, like, if there's something wrong with the car, I don't know there's something wrong with it. It's just not what it once was 10 years ago. Now it's kind of a little bit like a factory, the way that the cars are built. They're 4 or 5 weeks out, and our Sonoma car is already on the floor, our Charlotte car is on the floor, our Gateway car is on the floor. That's just the way it is right now. And it's really up to us to sit here and look at these computer screens and figure out what springs to put in it, what shocks, what sway bars, what heights we're going to run, what you can get by with air pressure. You still, try to get all you can through the Hawkeye and through the LIS and all those things, but it's not what it was with the old car, where you had something new every single week and completely just change things around and all that kind of stuff. So and I think that's why it's the racing's the way it is. It's really hard to pass because we're all about the same. But we've got to continue to get a little bit better. We've been really strong at some of the short tracks. The intermediate tracks, we've actually been better than what we've shown. Josh has done a good job in qualifying. It doesn't really look like it, but if you were sitting at the toolbox on pit road and watching his SMT, there's not many guys that can go out there their first year and run wide open through a corner at Vegas and Texas and all those places. And I was standing on pit road before the race this past weekend and looking around at who was around us, and that was something to be proud of. So it was going to be a good night the other night. I should have put 2 tires on and maybe had a little better shot, but I was thinking that we might have multiple green, white checkers and have a shot at the top 5 with 4 tires. So, it's the All-Star race. I think, the key with it is really going to be getting your car to handle right, and a guy that likes a place like that. And I think we're fortunate from that standpoint. Josh was in the 48 there last year. He won the Open, was able to move on to the All-Star race, got some laps in that. We were already up there for the Cars Tour tests, and we're going to run the Cars Tour race next Wednesday night. Those are the type of places he's in love with, he's comfortable with, and hopefully we can just show up and be fast. And, I don't think pushing envelopes there is really going to make your car faster or slower. It's really about, just going out there and have the thing turn and have it where you can put the throttle down and the brakes are good and all those things. So that's really going to be the key up there.
Thanks, pal. I appreciate it. Have fun this weekend. I'll see you at the All-Star race.
Thanks, man.
All right, Rodney, let's move on to Matt Weaver. Hello, Matt.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Rodney. Thanks for the time this morning. I got 2 for you. The right side tires being used here this weekend, Charlotte. It's the Kansas Vegas tire, and it seems like the tire is really sporty. It's opened up a lot of passing, a lot of comers and goers. Do you anticipate that kind of racing at Darlington too?
I do. I think, rewatching some of those races from last year, you're still going to have the guys that are really good at running the fence. The last few years, Truex has been really good at running the fence in 3 and 4. And if he can continue that, he'll be really good. I know the 11 was way good there last year, and then got a penalty on pit road. But, overall, our car was good there, and we were able to pass cars. I think for us last year, it was more about not destroying the tires the first 7 laps. Kevin was really good about that, and we could pass cars on the long run and make things happen. I think the biggest thing with the right side tire is it seems like we're not having to worry about them blow out as much as we were in like 2022. That was just, scary back then. Like you never knew what was going to happen. You would run the whole race, and then all of a sudden you get to the lead and you'd have clean air. And as soon as you get clean air and more load, you'd end up backed in the fence. So, I think that's been the key, is like we all feel more comfortable with what we have. The drivers feel more comfortable. And honestly, like you saw this past weekend, these cars put on good shows at the tracks like Kansas, where you have multiple grooves. They wear the tires out, they blast the nose, all those things. It just puts on a good show. And, the Coke 600 last year, I don't know if you could have asked for much of a better show than what that was. So hopefully we can do that again this year. And hopefully we can do it this weekend too at Darlington. So we'll see what happens.
And then I'm kind of really intrigued by this option tire deal that we're doing at Wilkesboro, but I'm curious, anytime that we do the option tire, like at Charlotte a couple of years ago, or anytime there's a strategic decision to be made, it seems like that you guys all kind of land at the same place. Like you guys optimize what is the best way to cut up a stage, or what is the best way to get on a tire, or whatever. Do you think there's going to be strategic divergence, or do you think you guys are all so smart that you're all going to figure out the best way to do it and you all do the same thing, so it really doesn't open up the passing that we were trying to create?
I think right now it's really hard to say what it's going to be like. They put some softer tires on at the tire tests, and the left side tires feathered really fast, like a dirt car. But normally at a repave, they do that anyway. Like even if it was an intermediate, like back to when they repaved Kentucky, they feathered the left side tires real bad the first half of the day, and it went away. Well, North Wilkesboro, it feathered them real bad, and then late in the afternoon, it was pretty warm there that day, and late in the afternoon, it quit doing that, and you could run the soft tires for a long period of time, and they were fine. And then the next morning, the sun wasn't really up yet, and the track tent wasn't up yet, and it was feathering the left side tires again, and it would fall off real bad. And then late in the afternoon, it quit doing it again. So I think the question is what is that going to do at night? I think you might see that in the heat races, maybe, see who does what, if the tires fall off. The problem is when they feather like that, they tank. And that's how they used to do at Martinsville. If you remember, like in 2014 and 15, the lefts would feather and we would slow down a second. And the guy that, had less toe or less, different things with his car, he would just come flying through the field. And it'll be interesting to see those things. The other thing is when they ran the softer tire, the balance was way too tight. And, right now our options are to run the normal tire or the soft tire, and you can change them, during that race or whatever. The problem is you can't do enough adjustments during a pit stop to change the balance to where it's good with both sets. And you can't give up that many spots on pit road doing rounds in both sides of the rear to make up for the balance difference. So I think that's really going to be the key is, can a guy on the hard tires the whole time end up being better because he's not having to make as many adjustments, or a guy that just worries about running the soft tires stays balanced that way, and hopefully he doesn't feather the lefts and he can continue to keep going. So for me, being in the open, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in those heat races on Saturday, because really what happens there is what is going to determine what we do for the open on Sunday. So it's going to be a learning weekend for all of us, and see how much rubber's down from the Cars Tour race and different things throughout the weekend. I think once the track rubber's up, I don't think the tires are going to feather that bad. So I think it'll turn into whichever one's the fastest and softest, which is probably going to be that option tire.
Dan, appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
All right, Rodney, buckle up. Bob Pockris.
Oh, gosh.
Here we go. Go ahead, Bob.
New York.
Yeah. How are you? How do you feel? How much of a handle do you feel you have on this new Ford body? And do you know what change? Do you know when you make a change? Do you have a good idea of what it's going to do, or is it still kind of a learning week to week?
I mean, I feel good about it. For us as a company, we've definitely been better this year, and we feel better about our cars. We feel better about our balance. We've been better in traffic. There's not a lot that has been worse for us. So, I know we're all disappointed that we haven't got a car in victory lane. But, as you saw with the 17 this past weekend, it's all about just hitting it right. You got to be perfect. And it's hard to be perfect every single week. And, we've had cars even with the 4 team of running up front at Richmond and Bristol and all those things that we've been good. I think it's a little bit of everything. It's not just the body. It's a little bit from the team side of needing to get their setups better. It's a little bit of understanding the body and maximizing the little details of that. Obviously we need to get better under the hood and make more horsepower and all those things. And everybody's working their butts off to get better every single week. And we're creeping up on it. And I think we'll continue to get better throughout the summer here.
And obviously some kind of uncertainty about SHR, but I'm curious with some of your guys last year, they know who their driver was going to be this year and that kind of thing. Are you guys so used to, maybe some uncertainty or change that you're able to kind of go with the flow and avoid the distraction?
Well, I think no matter what, if there's rumors, there's always going to be a distraction. Everybody on this 4 team, we came here to build something special. We came here to win races. We came here to win a championship, to sit on poles, to do a lot of cool things, and we've all done that. And that's all we can hang our hats on at the moment, is to go out there and be our best every week, to be somebody that the garage looks up to and thinks a lot of, and all those things. And I told my guys, if we continue to do that, that's really all that matters to us. All the stuff in the background it's going to happen whether we want it to or not, or it's not going to happen whether we want to or not. So for me, it's just trying to stay focused, trying to stay positive, and keep moving forward.
And thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Bob. Let's go to Roy Akers. Hello, Roy.
Hello, Rodney and Dan. First, a statement and a couple of very short questions. I love having the crew chiefs on. I like to have more crew chiefs. That's awesome. It's good hearing from your perspective. Taking a look, did Kevin Harvick say anything to you about a throwback car from Busch Light or any of the other sponsors?
From years past, you mean, or for this year?
Yeah, for this year. For the throwback car, since they haven't sponsored for a few years.
Yeah, I mean, the Busch Light stuff we've done in the past with Kelly Yarborough and different things. And, with them moving over to Trackhouse, that's really on them now. But for us, it was about grassroots racing. I've seen some other people's throwback cars that are for Darlington this weekend. And honestly, I was disappointed. As cool as they are, they're not about grassroots racing. And that's really what this focus was supposed to be on. So, I'd like to have seen more late model guys and modified guys and, super late model guys, whatever, to focus on the grassroots side of things and what has got us all here, whether it's the drivers, the crew chiefs, the crew members. There's a lot of people that have grown up doing this stuff and have had a lot of special moments throughout their career. And I think to be able to celebrate that, just like ours with the 4-car, is extremely special. So, that's kind of where I'm at with this weekend. I love to see all the grassroots schemes that are going this weekend.
Yeah, just very quick. Is there a reception for some of the old drivers that aren't around the track anymore? Some of the broadcasters or some drivers, do they come back specifically for this race, and you guys kind of share some laps at some point during the weekend?
Yeah, for sure. I think just having a racetrack like this that is historic, that's always about the throwback stuff, but it's also close to home. A lot of these guys can drive or and show up. We've every year, for chapel or for the drivers' meetings and walking around the garage, those guys are around. Normally Harry always shows up and is walking around. He still looks the same as he did 25 years ago, but it's cool to see those guys and what they mean to our sport, what they've done for our sport. And honestly, these weekends are special to them too. They love, everybody has always loved the Southern 500 and loved Darlington and different things, but it's just a special racetrack, and they get special recognition in weekends like this, and just a lot of fun for all of us.
Thank you.
All right, Rodney, we're going to go to Dustin Long and then Stuart Weber, and that'll close us out for the day. So, Dustin, go ahead.
Thank you. Hey, Rodney, looking ahead to the All-Star race in the option tire, and I'm curious, I know you were talking about it earlier, but I'm curious, what will in your mind define that this is something to move forward on, and that this, obviously, look, this was tried, in 17, and that idea quickly went away. So what will you look at or be the defining things, do you think, that since it's a test situation that's a way to look forward for the sport is to use the option tire down the road?
Well, I think the biggest thing is if we can just get it to wear and fall off and do the things, like everybody loved Bristol, but it's not really realistic either. We have to figure out what that happy medium is, we all need to make things better at the places like Martinsville and some of them. I don't think really Richmond is in that category, but there's some other short tracks that we got to get better. And we've tried a lot of different things as a sport, from the aero side, and it's not really making a ton of difference. So Martinsville, we had our hatch come open during practice and it didn't even slow down a lick. So that just tells you right there that knocking 100 counts of downforce off isn't going to fix it. So I think learning from this, seeing what the tires do. I mean, basically it's the rain tire compound. I think the thing that's kind of interesting is it's the same compound on the left and the right, which is not really something that we've done in a very long time. We've always had softer tires on the left and harder tires on the right. This option tire is the same compound on both sides. So I think that's what's making it tighter from a balance standpoint. Also, I think if we could have had something that was even softer on the left, the balance probably would have been closer between the two options. But, I think it's just about seeing what happens. That deal at Charlotte was fun to me. The option tire was definitely faster, it was a half a second faster. And if the option tire is a half a second faster at North Wilkesboro, it's going to make a difference. So we'll just have to see how the weekend goes. And like I said, if they feather real bad and they're going to fall off bad, then it's maybe not a good thing. But, in the open, we have that break at 50 laps. If you can make it 50 laps, and you're going to have cautions in there too. So let's say you run a third of those under caution laps, and really all you got to do is make about 30 laps and you're good. So we'll see what happens and see what they feel like in practice and go from there.
At the All-Star event, at least for that first night on Friday, what will it be like for you to see Kevin Harvick in a different car and working with a different crew chief?
It's been fun, honestly. Cliff was here at SHR when Kevin was here with us, right? And Cliff was on the 14 and was a huge part of everything that we used to do, and we've always had a good relationship. But soon as all this started going down, we got pretty tight on everything for Kevin. So I've delivered lots of parts to Hendrick Motorsports in the last 2 weeks, and Cliff was sending messages to me and Cheddar yesterday about how well it all worked. And there's SHR parts in a Hendrick car going to North Wilkesboro, but he went over and sat in it yesterday, and everything fit perfect, and was no issues and all that. But I think the thing for Kevin is, driving for Mr. H never happened. And he and I both came here for that reason. We wanted to be involved in that side of things, and we were able to do that for a few years. And I think being able to work with Cliff, and honestly, they already had that relationship from being here together and being in meetings together. So I think he'll have fun with it. He told me that was the biggest part of it, is go up there and have fun. So it'll be neat to see what he does, and how he enjoys it, and how he competes, honestly. And I'm not sure how NASCAR is going to let all that fly with what they have going on. It sounds like that's still up in the air, but we'll see what happens and see how it goes.
So are you going to, obviously you've got a job to do, but will you be watching a little bit of him in practice just to see him in that different car, or you think you'll be busy with what you've got to do that weekend anyway?
I'm sure I'll be busy. I know last year, man, that's a tough week. Josh, it really enjoys the late model stock cars, but the car store deal is kind of drug out long enough. It's pretty much an all day deal, Tuesday and Wednesday, and then you turn around and then you're there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's a heck of a week, and exhausting, honestly. But with the open cars and the all-star cars practicing at the same time, we're going to be plenty busy with what we have going on and trying to learn, and in that 50-minute practice. So well, I'm sure I'll talk to him after practice and see what he thinks and all that. And I think he'll be happy too. That 5 car is fast all the time. So those guys do a good job, and I'm sure he'll enjoy it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, Rodney, we'll close it out with Stuart Weber. Stuart, go ahead. You have the last word.
All right. Hey, Rodney, kind of spinning it back to the throwback theme and honoring a crew chief, I think is really cool. When you think back to your racing days and when you were able to be behind the wheel, how has that benefited you as a crew chief, for not just you, but if you think about other crew chiefs around NASCAR, just the ability to translate having been a driver to now being atop the box?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the key for me, was working on it all the time and crew chiefing for people the same time that I was racing, and build my own shocks at the time and different things like that. And you knew what it felt like when you added rebound to the right rear, you added rebound to the left front, or it did this or did that, or you moved your right front upper control arm up or down, or all those things is sticks in your mind of what does it feel like. And some of it has changed with this car, but the fundamentals are still there. And just understanding racing in general. How do you race, how do you pass, how can you trail throttle, how can you trail brake at different places and do all those things. And that's been key. Whether we were just talking about Cliff. The reason Cliff's good is because he's a racer, and you can go put him in a late model stock car right now and take him to Kinley. If it's a good car, he's going to run top 4. So that's really what it's about, is just understanding racing, and knowing the extent of every little detail of what it takes to build a nice car, have the interior right, have the this or that right. I mean, it's just all of it. And, I think, those late model days you can't pay enough for that. I think a lot of these guys need to have a lot more of that before they get in the Cup Series and to learn all those details of racing in general.
And I feel like the other route that maybe former drivers go is the broadcast booth. You look at Kevin Harvick doing that now. How would he be as a crew chief, or do you think broadcasting is really kind of what's right for him?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Kevin is he's just so detailed, and he's really good of having an agenda and controlling meetings and having his crap together, whether no matter what it is. And um, I think as a crew chief, it would be too much. He'd probably yell at too many people all the time. But on the other side of it, he would have his crap together, and he would expect everybody around him to have their crap together. So, he's so good at so many things, and I think you've seen that in the TV booth. He's kind of brought some of that to a new level and talked about things that maybe some of us wish that he wouldn't talk about, but he's upfront and honest and puts it all out there and keeps Clint straight at the same time. So I think he's enjoying all that. But I think one day it's definitely going to be a turn of the tides where he's going to boss people around again and make sure Keelan has the best truck there is and is fighting for a win or a championship one day.
Thank you.